When you've played through a game as many times as I have the first Metal Gear Solid, you begin to look for a new way to experience it. For a lot of people, this is speedruns or challenge runs, and I've certainly messed around with that, but I wanted to look at the game from a brand new perspective. No, seriously, I mean a completely new perspective. I wanted to see if you could take Metal Gear Solid and turn it into a first-person game. So, can you beat the entirety of Metal Gear Solid in first-person mode? Let's find out together. So how are we even going to play the game in first-person mode? We're gonna have to download a mod or some sort of ROM hack? Well, actually no. You see, Metal Gear Solid Integral, which is the expanded Japanese version, actually had a built-in first-person mode you can unlock after you beat the game once. And since the Master Collection includes Metal Gear Solid Integral, we now have access to first-person mode. No mods required. Now, admittedly, I don't think this first-person mode was ever meant to be a fully playable version of the game. It was more of a novelty, like a fun little gimmick mode, but we're gonna take it to the extreme and see just how far you can go in first person. The only real rule of this run is simple. I have to play the game in first-person mode at all times. This means that if I'm in control of Snake, I have to be in first person. Now, we're going to get into the actual challenge of the game, but first I should explain how the game actually controls in first person. If somehow you've never played Metal Gear Solid, it is essentially a 2D game masquerading as a 3D game. You move Snake in a more or less isometric view on a 2D plane, and it works really, really well. When you put that in the first person though, the very framework of the game kind of begins to break down. For example, the game isn't built around where Snake is looking or can see because it's worried about what the camera can see. So Snake's point of view is very, very limited in first person mode. He doesn't turn so much as strafe. He has no peripheral vision. Corners are absolute nightmares. It's really, really alien at first. One issue that we encounter almost instantly is that Snake can't pick up items in first person mode. At first that sounds absolutely game breaking, right? But if we're standing on the item, like a ration or ammo, and we crouch, usually Snake picks up the item. But there are a couple of upsides. Snake has the same forward and backwards momentum, meaning he moves backwards just as quickly as he moves forward in first person mode, so backpedaling away from enemies can kind of get you out of a jam. Now that I've explained the ground rules and a few of the mechanics that are going to be a part of this run, let's actually get into how it played out. We start out like every Metal Gear Solid game starts out, the opening docks. Honestly, this section was pretty clean. It took a few minutes to get adapted to the new perspective, but that's kind of convenient because it takes 2 minutes for the elevator to come down. There was this weird satisfaction to seeing the room from this perspective for the first time. I've probably seen the docks in Metal Gear Solid 500 times, but it was like I was seeing them for the first time. It really was cool. Then we hit the helipad. In a normal run, I would just thread the needle between those searchlights to get through, but I absolutely did not trust myself in first person mode to do that. So I decided to go around through the snow, and I was instantly caught by a guard whose patrol pattern I did not know very well. Why would I? I never go that way. But that's exactly the kind of fun I was looking for with this run. A speedrun is all about perfection, doing the exact same thing exactly right every time. But this run was uncharted territory. I had no idea what I was doing going into it, so I was rediscovering things for the first time. In some ways, it was like I was playing for the first time. Like, did you know that steam comes off the vents in the helipad area? I've never noticed that, these little steam coming out of the vents. That's the kind of stuff you notice in first person mode, man. That's amazing. 25 years later, I'm still getting surprised by this game. So aside from that initial game over, the path to the DARPA chief is actually pretty straightforward. Navigating the early game in first person isn't hard, it's just really awkward. Then came the boss fights. And the boss fights in this run, I think, are really where it started to shine. Revolver Ocelot's a fun and interesting fight that kind of plays out the same way every time. You get him into a loop and then you kill him. However, in first person, the whole thing becomes a nerve-wracking duel.
I make them go where I want.
Oh, I just shot Baker! Oh no. You can't see him half the time, and because he ricochets his bullets off the walls, you can't even use that to figure out the direction he's hitting you from.
Let's go.
You actually had to work to make sure you were keeping him in your field of view, otherwise he would absolutely light you up. It didn't take too long to adapt, but man, the tension was real. I've not had my heart racing in a Revolver Ocelot fight in years. This is gonna be impossible. Oh my god. Okay, both are good. That's good. Man, I need to like watch and see how everything comes down. First one, second one. They're on the same path. That one's gonna come down. That one's already gone up. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going. We made it, baby. We made it off of pure, like, feelings, pure vibe. Moving on to the tank though, first person mode didn't make that much of a difference. It was kind of hard to gauge how far your grenades were gonna go in first person. There's kind of a depth perception issue, but once you nail that distance and hit that I get it now moment, it's all business as usual with the tank. Hal's Lab, keep out. You ever noticed that before? He wrote on it, Hal's Lab, keep out. He's a child. God damn, I love Otacon. Oh, I got shot anyway! But then, the Cyborg Ninja. Look, I honestly didn't think the guy was gonna be that big of a problem in first person, so I was sorely unprepared for the absolute nightmare that he actually is in first person mode. The guy moves insanely fast. You can't track him. Half the fight is spent spinning in circles, trying to catch a glimpse of him out of the corner of your eye. Taking the fight to him was an absolute instant L. He's got a little bit too much range and was able to down me pretty much any time I tried. Oh, another thing about first person mode. When you get knocked down, it knocks you out of first person mode, meaning you have to stand up, get back into first person mode before you can move again. Which means if Cyborg Ninja knocked me down, by the time I got up and got back in first person mode, he would knock me down again. He was getting me in a loop. Cyborg Ninja was speed running me. It was disrespectful to say the least.
Pathetic. Oh, Solid Snake would never depend on such a weapon.
I've literally never heard that dialogue. I started having a little bit more success when I had him come to me. That way I could control the distance between us and I wasn't ever getting surprised by him. However, there's the famous part of the fight where he goes invisible, and in first person mode, he may as well actually be invisible. Even though I know all the places he could possibly be, it was still so nerve-wracking when he was running up on me invisible. But eventually though, I kind of got into a flow state and was able to take him down. But it was absolutely a slog. No! So far, hardest boss by a mile. Before we get to the next section, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like, and please subscribe to stick around. I put a lot of work into these projects, and it's only me here. I do all the writing, editing, recording, you name it, so it means a lot to me when you guys show me support. And if you really want to show me support, you can check me out on Patreon or on YouTube memberships. The links to those are going to be down below. Alright, back to the video. I thought Psycho Mantis would be the one to break the whole thing open. You see, during his boss fight, if you go into first person mode, it actually shows you his point of view. So I thought I was going to have to fight this entire fight in an almost second person view, fighting him while looking through the eyes of Psycho Mantis. But honestly, none of that happened. It just stayed in first person mode. It just worked. I was just able to beat him. There's really nothing to say about this fight. I appreciated the break. Luckily, I've talked a lot about Mantis in the past, so if you really want to hear me talk about Psycho Mantis, there's some options for you. The next few bosses, as you can imagine, are also going to be not much to write home about. Sniper Wolf and the Hind E, you already fight in first person mode, so this section of the run kind of plays out normally. It's actually kind of funny that the early game's been very, very difficult, and the mid game has sort of been a breeze in first person mode. Speaking of, oh my god, what am I doing? Why would I do that? Why would I do this? Oh, nice. I've never in this game taken out anybody but Wolf with the sniper rifle until just now. All of my playthroughs of the game, hundreds of playthroughs of this game. Crazy. But now we're at the tower climb. Up to this point, I haven't really talked about too much of the in-between boss stuff, and mostly because that hasn't been that interesting. Once you get used to the controls, it kind of plays out just as easily as it would in third person. A lot of the sneaking in this game is pretty simple if you know what to do. But the comm tower, I found very interesting. Running up those spiral stairs with no sense of space and no idea where the guards are, and they're coming from multiple angles. I couldn't tell where anyone was. I couldn't tell where I was. Anyway, we make it to the top. We even remembered to grab the rope in first person mode, meaning it took us longer to get started. But disaster strikes.
I can go into first person, but I can't move in first person. So unfortunately, this is where it ends, y'all.
The rappel section can't be played in first person mode. Yeah, technically the run ends here. Okay, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, nah, I'm just kidding. You think I'm gonna let something like the rappel section ruin this first person run? I mean, this part is basically a cutscene. It's not like you can die or anything. So anyway, we're moving on. Sniper Wolf second fight, I actually opted to go for the sniper rifle this time. Normally I use the Nikita to blast her, and technically it's still first person, so it still would have fit, but I don't know. I feel like it's been so long since I've actually sniped her in this fight, I figured I might as well. Out of respect, you know?
I gotta stop trying to do that fancy stuff. Unless it works. That's what I'm talking about. Got her.
Then we move on to the blast furnace, and another brick wall. As I said before, in first person mode, Snake can't go up against walls, meaning he can't sneak along the ledge to get to the other side of the blast furnace. So technically, again, the run is over. But once again, me and the chat made an executive decision. The run goes on because the spirit of the run is still there. I'm not going to throw out hours of fighting Revolver Ocelot and the Cyborg Ninja over this. We powered through and we kept going. But we would very soon meet an actual hurdle to the run. Vulcan Raven. Oh my god. I feel like it was karmic justice for all the times I've made fun of Vulcan Raven on this channel. This man broke me. Let me show you how quick Raven fights usually go when I play this game. Yeah, clean, right? Well, that strategy, the grenade strategy, completely off the table. In first person mode, when you fall, you get knocked out of first person mode. So by the time I snapped back in, tried to throw the next grenade, Raven had already lit me up and I'm back down on the ground. Okay, so I don't have that speedrun strat. No problem. I'll just do the normal fight, right? Pop out the stinger, shoot, pop back in. No. When you unequip the stinger, the game defaults back to the third person view, and that tiny delay, the second delay of getting back into first person, is all Raven needed to shred me. For 2 hours, I fumbled around this goddamn meat locker, trying everything. Nikita loops, C4 traps, claymores, just chucking grenades at random. I even started trying to use the SOCOM and the FAMAS. This boss fight became a survival horror game. Every sound Raven made off screen was just terrifying.
Holy cow, he's moving so fast. This is terrifying.
But finally, I got a strategy that worked. It was more of a Frankenstein's monster strategy of everything I'd tried up to this point. I had some C4 out, some claymores out, threw a couple desperate grenades.
No way! I actually did it!
One of the actors signed my playbill.
I actually did it! Oh my god, I did it without... Oh my god.
My existence.
Wow.
It wasn't a clean win, but I won, baby. And it was the biggest victory of the entire run.
Wow, that was way harder than it needed to be.
After that fight, I will never disrespect Vulcan Raven again. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to show the picture one more time. Yeah, that's canon. All right, fam. We closing in on the finale. I'm a little nervous about Liquid. I think Liquid is going to be the hardest boss in this run. Anyway, after that, the game threw me a bone. The PAL key segment, honestly a breeze. You really get to take in the environments down here. In third person, you kind of blast through these rooms and don't really notice it, but these industrial, sterile, eerie corridors, they're actually pretty cool. And I even noticed something I never had before. When you're on top of Rex, if you look over, you can actually see Liquid and Ocelot in the control room, just chatting away. Just two dudes chilling in a control room. It's incredible. I love this game.
Whoa, and there he is. Look at him in all his glory, just hanging out over there.
What I didn't love as much was Metal Gear Rex. It was nowhere near the nightmare of Raven or even Cyborg Ninja, but it was actually tougher than I expected. You see, in the easy mode speedrun, Snake doesn't really move that much. However, first person mode defaults to normal, where Snake can't tank as much damage and Rex takes just a few more hits. But I found a rhythm, and then during the second phase, I quickly ducked underneath him to grab the extra ration and a little extra ammo, and it made a huge difference. I barely scraped through, but hey, we take those here.
Come on, can we tank him out? I don't think we can. Did it! Tanked him out! We did it! Oh, that was clutch.
And then, the moment we've all been waiting for. The grand finale. The L'Enfanterie Brawl. First person mode. Solid Snake versus Liquid Snake. I even made a poster for this fight. I was so ready. But no. Liquid can't be fought in first person mode.
All of that, and you can't go in first person mode in the final fight? No way. The run dies with a whimper? Unbelievable. Also, good of Liquid to not do anything. He's just kind of looking me down.
I tried everything. You can't move in first person mode while you're fighting Liquid. And this was the wall.
Snake!
This is crazy after all that. After everything we've done, the run ends here. I can't fight him in first person mode.
Obviously the run ends here. You don't get all this way and then fight Liquid in third person and say you beat the game in first person. The challenge was over. So, no, you can't beat Metal Gear Solid 1 in first person mode. But I still saw it through to the end. And I did finish the escape sequence in first person mode, and that's just for the fans. So we're gonna chalk this up as a fail, but I'm really glad that I did it. The challenge made me appreciate how dense and layered this game really is. Little details I've never seen, strategies I've never even had to think about before, a new kind of tension I've never felt in some of these boss fights. If you're looking for a new way to experience this game, give it a shot. Honestly, you might find some ways to do this stuff that is way easier than what I was trying. And if you do, I would love to see it. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, leave a comment about the wildest challenge run you've ever tried, and consider subscribing to me for more. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being a part of this community.